All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today for our August 2019 State Leaders Conference call. We're really excited that you're here with us this afternoon and hope you had a great summer break. I know that a lot of schools have already started. And if you're one of the lucky ones who hasn't started yet, I hope that your school year gets off to a great start. Uh, we have a lot of things we want to cover today. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Jared Nagurka on our staff to give us our legislative update.
Thanks, Lauren. I will be pretty brief here. We haven't had a call for a couple months, but there hasn't been a whole lot of update on federal public policy issues. Probably the biggest thing is that, even though Perkins was reauthorized last year, we go through the appropriations process every year, and so we've been hard at work trying to secure increased funding for Perkins basic state grants. So just as a little bit of a background, back in the spring, the Trump administration had requested level funding for Perkins, but the ACT went and we led an effort to secure a funding letter where members of both the House and Senate signed on to a letter asking for robust funding to both chambers. In the Senate, that included 41 senators, and in the House, that included 162 bipartisan members. And so they signed on to that. And then in April, the Labor H Subcommittee under the Appropriations Committee approved a $37 million increase to Perkins. We weren't thrilled about that number. We thought that it could have and quite frankly should have been higher. So we engaged in some additional advocacy efforts, and the full committee in the House approved an additional $10 million to make that a $47 million increase. So again, not as good as in the preceding 2 years, but still an increase. But of course, then kind of action turns to the Senate. And nothing really has happened in the Senate yet. Certainly haven't had any numbers be released about what the Senate Appropriations Committee, how they want to fund Perkins for fiscal year 2020. There was for a while an issue of budget caps. Essentially, there was a law passed a few years ago that dealt with the amount of money that dealt with automatic spending cuts that would be triggered based off of concern about the nation's debt and deficit. Ultimately, there was a deal that was reached that would increase the allowable funds that could be spent on non-defense discretionary spending, and so that kind of cleared the way for us to move forward in the Senate on appropriations issues. But like I said, there's been no update yet. The committee has not released its numbers, and so we don't know how the Senate Appropriations Committee will allocate funding to Perkins basic state grants. Because we want to continue this advocacy, later this week, just as an update, there will be an alert going out asking our members to reach out to their senators to support increased funding for Perkins. Once that happens and once the Senate bill is passed, obviously then they'll need to reconcile between the House and the Senate version, then ultimately it will go to the president. So I'm still waiting on all that to happen. Hopefully it happens before FY 2020 begins, or else we'll have to go through the shutdown process. Of course, in past years, not last year for education, but in past years, there have been continuing resolutions, essentially putting the federal spending on autopilot while Congress continues to work its issues out. So ACT remains really engaged in that process, and we'll certainly keep you updated. The other big piece of legislation related to CTE on Capitol Hill is reauthorization of the Higher Education Act. This was last reauthorized in 2008, so it's been over a decade, and the nature of post-secondary education has certainly changed in the last 11 plus years. Probably ACT's biggest priority is the Jobs Act, which extends extends Pell Grant eligibility to short-term job training programs. So in June, there was a bill introduced in the House. Previously, there was a Senate version. The House bill has 25 co-sponsors. It's bipartisan. Essentially, the only changes from the Jobs Act this year versus Jobs Act in the past, because it was introduced in the previous Congress, is that now funding for-profit institutions is cut off for this expanded Pell Grant eligibility. It kind of works both ways. Some of the Democrats, for accountability and oversight reasons, are pleased to see that. Some Republicans wanted that as well because their concerns with implementing Pell remain around cost controls. There are Republicans that both like that prohibition and also are concerned about it. The Trump administration hasn't quite publicly come out in support of jobs, but has certainly been working behind the scenes. Following Perkins' reauthorization, Ivanka Trump has really taken on jobs as something that she and the administration want to support. And the last thing I'll note is that there is an alternative bill called the Pell Flexibility Act. ACT does not support that bill. It looks really similar to the Jobs Act, except it's more of a pilot program, and so it will not provide short-term Pell at all 4,000 plus institutions that would be eligible. Instead, it's only 100. ACT does not support that bill. And then the other one, just to put on everybody's radar, is the College Transparency Act. That's a bipartisan bill that would create a student-level data network to help make students more informed decision makers. It's a bipartisan bill in both chambers, but there is some opposition for it. So ACT continues to remain engaged in that. And then the last thing that I'll note is that we are still working on Perkins implementation. States are now in their one-year transition plan. And so they're currently developing their full 4-year plans, and ACTE remains engaged on that front as well. And I should note, as always, if you ever have any sort of questions or we can be helpful with anything, feel free to reach out to anyone on the public policy staff. We're happy to help.
Excellent. Thank you, Jared. Any questions for Jared? Please note you are muted, so be sure to unmute your line, or you can utilize the chat feature. Jared, just to put you on the spot real quick, could you just share with everybody the 2 new staff that have come on board to the public policy team?
Sure, yeah. Sorry about that. I should have definitely done that. So we have first Mike Matthews has joined. He comes to us from the Hill, and so he's doing a lot of our appropriations work as well as our other federal policy work. And then we also have Hannah Nieper, who's now joined the public policy team, specifically in the research department, who's working closely with Catherine on a lot of our research publications.
Excellent. Thanks, Jared. Any questions for Jared? All right. We'll keep moving right along here. And our next item is our ACTE announcements. So I know we've mentioned this in the past, but I want to be sure that you have the Educators in Action virtual discussions on your calendar. Next ones we have coming up are September 19th and October 24th. These are excellent opportunities not only for people from your state to share their areas of expertise, but also for people from your state to learn from other CTE educators. So I really would encourage you to participate and get involved in Educators in Action, and specifically with these virtual discussions, either as a leader or as a participant. In September, we have work-based learning, which is going to be led by 2 of our leaders from DC. And then in October, we'll have a presentation from a leader in North Carolina on what do you mean I'm not going to be a blank. So that's going to be an excellent presentation as well. Another opportunity for you to participate in as a leader or as a participant is, of course, our Educators in Action blog. So if you're interested in writing, please let us know. We would love to have you involved. And if you haven't checked it out, please be sure to check it out. There's lots of wonderful things being highlighted on the Educators in Action blog, and it's really a great resource available to our members. I wanted to make sure you had several deadlines on your radar for this fall. Our first deadline that's coming up is September 15th, and that's for our fellows. So if you have someone from your state who's interested in participating in our fellows program, please make sure they get their application in by the 15th. I apologize for the formatting error here. 2 deadlines on October 1st. The first is ACTE Lead, which is one of our leadership development programs that's specifically targeted to new professionals. So those with 2 to 5 years CTE experience. There is an application and there is a stipend available for that as well. But the applications are due October 1st. This will be our 3rd cohort this year. Also, October 1st is the Assembly of Delegates list. So please be sure to send those in. A question we often receive is, I don't have the membership numbers for everyone. Even if you just have the name, that's sufficient, and we can use that to look up the member in IMIS to verify that they are indeed a member. But please be sure to get those in by October 1st so we can make sure everyone is all situated for the Assembly of Delegates. The Quality Association Standards and Annual Report are due on October 15th. The Quality Association Standards is a voluntary program that is available to our state association leaders. Several years ago, we went through all of the hallmarks of a quality state association, and we put it into the Quality Association Standards framework so that you can use the Quality Association Standards as a checklist to verify that your state association is achieving quality and excellence from year to year. So it's a great way for you to just self-check how you're doing and get ideas of ways that you can improve your association even more. In conjunction with that is the annual report. Every state association, regardless if you're unified or non-unified, if you are affiliated with ACTE, you are required every year to return an annual report. The annual report is included in the QAS application. And for those of you who do not choose to complete the QAS, it is also available as a standalone annual report option for you. This is also available through the portal and is only accepted through the portal. And again, that deadline is October 15th, and it is required for all state associations. So please be sure to highlight that one in particular. The advance rate deadline for Vision is October 25th. So if you would like to have that discount, please be sure to get your registration and your members registration in by that time. The membership deadline to vote in the ACTE Board of Directors election is November 6th. So that deadline changes from year to year depending on when the election is held. So please be sure, especially if you're a state association with a late summer or fall conference, to get your memberships in by that time so that there's no issues with your members being able to vote in the election. We must receive those memberships by November 6th in order for them to participate. And lastly, the one that I wanted to highlight was November 1st, and that's our state breakfast deadline. If you would like to have representatives at our annual state breakfast, we would love to have them. Please be sure to send those in to Shelly Hassan by November 1st. I already talked about the fellows a little bit, but I wanted to give you a little more information about it. We've been doing the fellowship program now for a little over a decade, and it's one of our premier leadership programs. As I mentioned, we have two cohorts, a new professionals cohort, which is for individuals with 2 to 5 years experience in CTE. And we also have one that's for anyone with above 5 years experience, which we call the experienced professionals cohort. There is $1,000 stipend that's associated with this program, in addition to free registration to NPS and Vision. NPS and Vision are the two in-person events, and the rest of the program of work is handled virtually through Zoom, which is the platform we're using right now. We have a new coordinator coming on board this coming year. It's Cindy Stover, so one of your own state leaders. We're really excited about that. And we look forward to another great cohorts of fellows this coming 2020. So please be sure to get your state members to apply September 15th. I also talked about ACTE Lead just a little bit. Again, I wanted to highlight that they meet in person at NPS as well as at Vision, and there is a $250 stipend that is associated with Vision and with NPS, so $500 total. If this is something that's of interest to your members, please be sure to get that application in by October 1st. The State Leadership Training Program is an offering for our state leaders to train you in state association management. Every year, the program of work changes, and this year we're working on two items in particular that I'm really excited about. One will be a audit discussion on finances and other such matters with ACTE's auditor, and that's going to be happening at MPS. And then we'll have a representative from Forrest T. Jones talking to us about different insurance needs, and that will be occurring here at Vision. So it's going to be an excellent program. I really encourage you to attend if you've never attended or if you've attended many times, since the program of work is always changing, it's always fresh, there's always new things to learn. You register on the Vision registration form, and there is a $25 cost for the session. If you have someone in your state who is an emerging leader that needs a little bit of support to come, we do offer a $250 stipend, and there is an MOU to complete in order to do that. Only one emerging leader can be selected from each state. So please be sure to take advantage of that as well. I wanted to talk a little bit about the election. November 6th, again, is that deadline to get your memberships in. We have several elections going on this year. As you can see, president-elect, engineering, marketing is not occurring this year. Administration, guidance, Region 5, and PACE. Excuse me, Region 5 is not occurring this year either. We did not have more than one applicant. I apologize for leaving that on there. And our next two calls, September 30th and October 28th. September 30th will be on member recruitment. We'll also talk about the Quality Association Standards Award. And in October, we'll talk about CTE month so that you have time to prepare for that, since it comes right around the corner from the holidays in February. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Julia O'Brien, who is our Senior Director of Communications, to provide us with an update.
All right. Thanks, Lauren, and thanks everyone for joining us today. Sorry, just technical issue here. Do you want me to advance my slides, Lauren?
I can stop my share and have you share if you'd rather.
Okay.
Would you like that?
Sure.
Okay.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I'm hearing a rooster.
Oh, that's.
I'm muting everyone here.
On here. Sorry, still trying to share. I think I'm sharing, but I'm not
You are
sure.
sharing. You are
Okay,
sharing.
super. Okay. Okay. Sorry, okay, well, I'm not going to worry about this. Everybody can see my slide.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, super. So I just wanted to promote upcoming themes for techniques. Just wanted to reinforce that we're always looking for article proposals and to have all of the states, or as many states as possible, represented in techniques. So I just wanted to offer that we are looking for articles for the February through May issues. The February theme is Perkins 5. The March theme is Data and Program Improvement. The April theme is Waterworks. So that'll be on sometimes like our industry-specific issue, but it'll focus on shipbuilding and cruise lines and just anything that happens on or in the water. So we're really excited about that issue. But we're excited about all of them, but that one seems like a lot of fun. And then the May issue will be on professional development. And I've included the link there that includes the complete editorial calendar information with deadlines. And then also, if something doesn't quite fit in the magazine, or if you have something that you think might be better suited for a blog, Techniques does have a blog called Pages, and so we're always looking for content for that too. So we encourage you to submit to both the magazine and to the blog. I just wanted to remind you about some of our online professional development opportunities. Lauren talked about Educators in Action, which is a wonderful resource for sharing best practices. But I also wanted to promote CTE Learn, which has been newly relaunched, and it includes over 150 high-quality courses on just on all kinds of topics and professional development areas for CTE teachers and administrators. And just to get a taste of what's on there, there's also the 7 courses that ACTE originally put together when it was CTE Core, and early on in that we had a grant years ago. So there are courses in there on CTE and STEM. There's going to be a new CTE administrator course. There's one on military recruitment. Anyway, there are 7 free full courses there that, they are available for you. And then there's also 25 free modules on employability and workplace skills. It's everything from conducting effective meetings to active listening techniques to, getting along with your boss. But there are about 25 different modules, and they're really good for, the CTE teacher, the administrator, and for your students, actually. So we just encourage you to check those out. They are high quality. We've partnered with a vendor who does this really well. So we're excited about the free offerings and then the actual courses that come at a cost. And also there's an online learning community there too, so some networking opportunities as well. So just encourage you to check those out. We continue to offer our online webinars through the ACTE website, so we continue to add to those as well. So again, just a variety of online resources that I wanted to remind you about. And then about a year ago, we were awarded a grant by the Institute of Education Sciences from the U.S. Department of Education, and it's called the CTE Research Network. And their website launched at the end of last year, and so over the last several months, all of us, ACTE is a partner on this, we've been populating this website with content. So right now, there's some really good information in the news section, which includes really a blog. There's most recently there was a blog post with it was an interview with Nebraska State CTE Director Katie Graham, and we hosted that interview. And then other of our other partners are also providing blog posts and interviews on that same section. And then in the resources section, it's ACTE with our partners. We've really just included some nice pieces of research that are freely available for you to view and download. There's information on dual enrollment programs. There's a report on the relationship between high school graduate success in college and in the workforce. So just a lot of really good research and information that's amassing on that website. So I encourage you to check it out. And keep watching that website for, as more information is added.
Julia, real quick, we have a
Yeah.
question from Lisa. She wants to know, when will the CTE administrator modules come out?
Those are slated for September. I know those are they are being finalized.
Great.
Actually, yeah, that information will all be on CTE Learn. Yeah,
Excellent.
good question. Good
Thanks,
question.
Julia.
It also, that will come with a printed guide as well, or a manual, almost like a lab book that goes with that course. So we'll be promoting that as well. You can watch for that in September, all that information. Are there any other questions on anything I've talked about so far?
There is a question about, is there going to be a cost for the CTE administrator module?
I don't believe so. Right now, it is in our free section. It's an ACTE created course. There is a cost to the printed manual that could accompany that course.
Thank you.
Yes. Anything else? Great questions. we're excited about the interest in CTE Learn. So I just also wanted to remind you about Career Tech Vision. We're very excited that we'll be at Anaheim this year. We've got 2 keynote speakers, astronaut Garrett Reisman. He's also a senior advisor for SpaceX. And then Marcia L. Tate, who is a best-selling author and also an educational consultant. But then also we have a variety of, workshops and industry and school tours and hundreds of CTE sessions. And I also wanted to offer that for the first time this year, we're offering a combo rate. So if you purchase your Career Tech Vision and the awards banquet or gala together, there's a $10 discount. So we encourage you that if you're interested in attending the awards event, to purchase it as a combo rate. You get a little bit of a discount. And then again, the advanced rate it runs through October 25th, just as Lauren had mentioned earlier as well. And then we've got our Best Practices and Innovations in CTE event that we host in concert with NCLA. And this is really our boutique event for CTE administrators. So it's a little smaller, about between 350 and 400 attendees. This year it'll be in Tucson, Arizona at the Westin La Paloma Resort from September 25th through the 27th. So we're still taking, we're still taking online registrations for that, and just encourage you to attend. And then I just wanted to also say that we've got some upcoming events in Raleigh, North Carolina in October. The Credential Summit 2019 that we host with NACTI will be October 2nd through the 3rd. And then ACTE's Region 2 Conference will be October 3rd through the 5th. And then finally, I just wanted to remind you that we do have a growing collection of titles in Shop ACTE. Our most popular book this year really has been Perkins 5, and we do encourage you, if you don't have that yet, it is an excellent resource as states are working on their transition year and implementation. We also have Mark Perna's Answering Why, where we really, The Martians in Your Classroom by Rachel Mann, who also sits on our board, is very popular. And then we've got our new CTE Administrative Leadership Series, the first and second one. They are both out now and available for purchase. And the third one will be coming out in the winter of 2020. And then we've recently re-released Putting Your Data to Work as a 3rd edition. So just to check that out. And then as a member, you do receive discounts on all those titles. So do you have any questions? All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to be here today, and we hope to see you at an event soon.
Thank you so much, Julia. I'm going to go ahead and take control, and we're going to shift back into the next part of our discussion here, which will be with our ACTE Executive Director, Lee Ann Wilson, providing us with an ACTE update and news from the July ACT Board of Directors meeting. And I think I have you muted, Leanne. Hold on one moment. Apologize for that.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Lauren, and hello to everyone. It's always a pleasure to be a part of this call with such important and valuable folks to ACTE, so thank you for that. Before I get into the slides, I wanted to do just a brief overview of some of the items of the board meeting itself. Just quickly, the board approved some changes to our campaign rules for ACTE for campaign restrictions that had been there prior. The board approved changes to loosen some of those. We had heard a lot over the years that it made some campaigning challenging, and so we were very excited about that change. The Board of Directors also approved a new Trade and Industrial Division VP because there was only one applicant that had applied for the position. We also reviewed membership, as we always do, and we were very proud that our membership grew again this past fiscal year, which runs July 1st to June 30. And also the number of new members that we had grew from the prior fiscal year. And I have to say kudos and much appreciation out to the state associations, because without you, that would not have been possible. Also, we are focusing on a work-based learning initiative, and we have the largest contingency of members in the new and related services division, and we're excited about our focus on work-based learning because it does hold a great potential for membership growth for ACTE. Also, something new that's coming up that I wanted to mention is we're hosting a Teach CTE Summit in February 2020 in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And the focus of that event will be on data centering on the teacher shortage initiative. And we are working to post the summit agenda, which I believe was going up today. And it is going to be limited to 100 people, and we are getting invitations together now. But if you're into data and research and have a lot of that compiled and interested in the CTE teacher shortage initiative, please let us know. We'd love to see you in February in Fort Lauderdale. And also, we had another very successful student trophy design contest. We had over 428 applications this year, and we were very excited to have our Educators in Action help judge those applications. And the board did vote on a design this year for the trophy, and it's a student from Seacoast School of Technology in New Hampshire. So really excited about that. So you'll see those awards, as you always do, at the awards gala at Vision. Okay, so I am going to go through the executive director report that I also shared with the board in July. And we are still in our 3-year strategic plan time window. And the strategic plan continues to be integrated throughout our organization. It's incorporated into our budget, our region and division plans, our staff evaluations and goals, and it's also highlighted in the monthly reports that I share with the board. So the successes in FY19, obviously you've heard some of those from Julia, but we had a lot of new initiatives, new grants, new sub-grants. We increased our travel to events, increased the number of conferences that we, ACTE, hosted. Our partnerships continue to explode. Just a lot of interest in CTE, as I'm sure our state associations are feeling as well. We increased the volume of our products, which Julia just discussed as well. I said previously that our membership continues to increase, and we're currently doing a pilot program with an institution in Ohio to see how that's received, and if that pilot program is successful, that's something we'll be rolling out to all of our state associations sometime towards the end of next year. We've increased our assistance to state associations. We realize that many of you have very differing needs from the others, and so we have tried to customize our service offerings as much as possible depending on what your needs are, but we're just very happy to provide the support that we do. And the staff was charged with meeting many strategic plan goals in FY19, and I'm very proud to say that we met them all. So we were very, very proud of that. As far as the expanded connections, again, many of you have already heard we had 2 additional unifications in 2019, Oregon and Indiana. And we still have very promising discussions with many others, so we're very grateful. Also, we've had much interest from some state division affiliates as well. So in 2018, we had TIVA Unification, which is a state division affiliate in Texas, as well as the Maryland Administrators Group has affiliated with us. We continue to meet quarterly with our friends at Octave and also our close friends at Advanced CTE to keep those connections strong, especially with Perkins implementation happening. And we continue to expand relationships with the state CTE directors themselves and trying to build bridges between those folks as well as our state association leaders whenever needed. And we, again, continue to increase our involvement and collaborative efforts with all of you. The new grants and new subgrants that have been alluded to previously are very exciting for us. Many of you already know about our ECMC Foundation grant that was part of that Post-Secondary Leadership Success Program cohort of fellows that started there at Vision last year, and also our CTE Research Network grant that Julia mentioned. The two other subgrants I think I have a later slide we'll talk about, but also wanted to just tout that we're always proud to attend your state events. That continues to be a priority for us. And so each year, we try to attend more. Basically, if a state association is active in having a state conference, we're there. So very grateful for that opportunity. And as I mentioned earlier, our partnerships are just really exploding. Lots of MOUs, agreements, lots of active partnerships. And I know I have the numbers there, but it's really in the several hundreds that we're talking to pretty consistently these days. And like I said, I'm sure you're getting much of the same coming to you at the state level, just with the ever-growing interest in CTE. And also, we, in the last fiscal year, we hosted an Oregon conference, a Pennsylvania conference, a DC conference, and of course, the Credential Summit with our friends at NOCTI, as Julia mentioned. The two subgrants that I had talked about are both in connection with Advanced CTE. One is with Oregon and one is with the Gates and Joyce Foundations. And basically, we are working with Advanced CTE on Perkins implementation, and they've awarded or subcontracted with us for these grants that they've received. So the first one in Oregon goes from, started in March this year and will end March of next year. And then the Gates Joyce Foundation subgrant began in March as well this year and has the potential to last through April 2021. So I'm very excited. Alicia and Catherine on our staff are really in charge of the activities surrounding Perkins implementation, and they're getting resounding touts of appreciation for their work and helping the states roll out their implementation efforts. And this is a slide I love to share with the board each July because it does give a snapshot of ACTE's revenue model. No surprise that 46% of our revenue comes from Vision. And then another big piece of the pie there is 28% from membership. But we are very proud of the fact that we have continued to diversify our other revenue areas, such as the new ECMC grant and just many other things that we hadn't done in the past, including conference management. So we're getting more slices of the pie added, but that doesn't mean that we're neglecting any of the really crucial and vital areas of revenue for ACTE. Also, our investments continue to grow. There you can see from the chart the contributions we've made over the years. And also the blue line, we're very happy the blue line is above the red line, which is our investment balance. So the in-between there are really the earnings that we've made on the amount that we've contributed. So as of May 31st, we had $5.8 million in long and short-term reserves. And I think my next slide includes the 630 contribution that we made. Just a reminder, we have a board policy that says our reserve funds can't exceed 18 months of operating funds. So you can see there, the most that we can carry in our operating funds is $7.5 million in our operating reserves. And currently, right now, after that additional amount of $550 we moved, we're at 6.47. So still have a ways to go to that 7.5, but again, we talk a lot in our board meeting about sustainability and about making sure that, ACT is coming up on 100 years soon and that we last another 100 years. And so that we're best preparing ourselves for, any economic downturns or anything that might happen in the future with volatile markets. So we're making sure that we're protecting the organization, protecting being good stewards of our member funds, and making sure that ACT stays a financially lucrative and viable association to serve CTE professionals long into the future. And that's it. Again, just such a pleasure always to speak with this group in particular. And I'm looking forward to seeing everyone in Anaheim.
Thank you so much, Leanne. Any questions for Leanne? All right, and as always, if you have any questions come up at any time, you are always more than welcome to contact Leanne directly or contact anybody on ACTE staff, and we would be more than happy to assist you. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Paula, who is one of our 2018 ACT Experienced Fellows. So she was one of our fellows last year. And she's going to be talking to us today about an introduction to positive leadership. Thank you so much for joining us, Paula.
Thank you. All right, let me share my screen with you guys. All right, hi everyone. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk to you about positive leadership. For the past year, I've kind of been on a happiness positivity journey in my professional development opportunities, really focusing on, the research and the science behind what makes people happy and successful and satisfied with their jobs and their lives, and how can you increase that potential within yourself and within your staff or the people that you work with on your leadership teams and in your organizations. So this is going to be just a brief introduction to the ideas behind positive leadership and just some ideas that maybe you can use to start the school year in a more positive, productive manner. If you're really interested in the topic, I did do an Educators in Action virtual discussion that went a little bit more into the brain research and some of the science and data behind happiness and positive leadership. So that's always available to you as well. So the very first thing is just a brief introduction into what is positive leadership. So the first quote on the screen is from Kim Cameron. She's the author of Practicing Positive Leadership, and she explains it as multiple positive practices that help individuals and organizations achieve their highest potential, flourish at work, experience elevating energy, and reach levels of effectiveness difficult to attain otherwise. A lot of the background between positive leadership and positive psychology really just shows that the happier and more content people are in their jobs and in their lives, the more productive, the more successful, the more creative they are. All of those things that we want to be as leaders and that we want to instill in our staff. It comes down to the idea of a growth mindset, that you really believe that people can reach high levels of excellence, that their capacity for professional development, for success, for excellence isn't capped at anything, that the way we treat them, the way we create our environments can all help them grow and develop. And a huge part of the positive leadership part of that is that as a leader, you believe that you have the skills and the ability to help them excel and achieve those high levels of effectiveness and success. And like I said before, there's this huge belief in the potential for excellence, that everybody can do more, be more. They just need to want to, and part of wanting to is feeling satisfied and happy with their lives and with their jobs. The thing that I like the best about the idea behind positive leadership is that it all starts with small actions. A lot of times when I go to professional development or I research different initiatives, it seems really overwhelming and I don't feel like I have the time to put it into practice. But everything behind positive psychology and positive leadership starts with small actions that just bring about really big benefits for yourself in terms of your professional growth, and then the work that you can do with your leadership team or your staff. So hopefully, based on the way I described it, you understand why we need more positive leadership in the world, and especially in education. But basically, it comes down to that we're constantly being asked to do more with fewer resources, and that is leading to huge amounts of stress and burnout. There's a lot of different surveys and polls and data out there about how many people are unsatisfied with their jobs, who feel like they have chronic stress, that feel like they have health issues related to the amount of stress that they have. And creating a more positive work environment and developing positive leadership skills within ourselves can help combat a lot of that. A big piece of the reason we need this is because as leaders, our behavior matters. And I think that sometimes we underestimate the amount of influence that we can have on our organizations, on our staff, even on the students that we're responsible for, but maybe not directly impacting every single day. A lot of the studies in positive psychology show how overly positive or overly negative behaviors, body language, facial expressions can actually become contagious and spread towards other people. There's a lot of examples where they'll insert somebody whose body language is negative into a group or whose body language is positive into a group, and then they'll watch to see how does the group react, and it's called the mirroring effect, where everybody kind of takes on that behavior or those body languages. And what I didn't always recognize was, as a leader, how my attitude, my tone of voice, my behavior impacted the people that I was speaking to or the people around me, or how a meeting went. So coming from a more positive mind frame really helps me better understand and better monitor my behavior. And then the quote on the bottom of the screen is from Sean Aker, who's a lead researcher in positive psychology, and he has a variety of books that really talk about the data on how happiness can affect workers and how happy workers are more productive, and that happy CEOs are more likely to lead, or happy leaders are more likely to lead teams of happy, effective, and productive employees. And I think that's what everybody wants, is to feel good about the work that they do and to feel like they're doing a good job at the work that they do. So there's really two aspects to positive leadership. There's what do you do for yourself to become a positive leader, and then what actions do you take with your staff to kind of show positive leadership and to lead from that place of positivity. The first step that you can take to become a positive leader is self-care. It sounds really basic and it sounds really easy, but it's one of the first things that I think leaders neglect in themselves when they get busy. Is we make time for everybody else and we make time to give back to our organizations and our communities, but we don't always make time for ourselves, and we can't take care of the people and the things that we need to do if we're not taking care of ourselves first. So some of the things that really help build a positive mind frame and a positive life specifically are finding a few minutes to meditate, obviously exercise because of all those endorphins, There's a lot of research on the power of journaling or even just tracking gratitudes or happy experiences. And then everybody talks about, you know, the power of having a hobby and a social network, but a lot of times I know in my life when I get busy, that's one of the first things that I cut out. So the strategy there is really to schedule it just like it's a meeting. If your hobby is to paint or to read, schedule a little bit of time to take care of yourself and make that happen, and you're more likely to, you know, accept it and actually do it if it's scheduled like a meeting. Another thing that you can do to build positive leadership characteristics and traits within yourself is reflection. And as leaders, I know we all reflect all the time, but in positive leadership, it really kind of gives you more of an intentional reflection. One of the questions that a lot of the research on positive leadership does is ask you to look at how well are your actions matching your intentions. So if your intention is to be more present in meetings, or to reduce your use of technology, or to be a better listener, to presume positive intentions, how well do your actions match that intention? How well do your actions show the world that that's what you're working on? And as you reflect on your actions every day, you're always looking for what went well, and then what can you do better tomorrow? So kind of, even though you're reflecting, you're not perseverating on the negative, which I tend to do, or the mistakes you might have made, but you're really looking at how well did your actions match your intentions, and what are you going to continue to do to be better, so you're starting from kind of like that area of growth. Positive language, I thought, was a really interesting characteristic of positive leadership, and it's one that I'm trying very hard to do. The VIA Institute, which is a resource that I'll talk about in a few minutes, has a site that helps you identify character strengths. And what's interesting about that is even though they're ranking your character strengths from greatest to least, they never use weaknesses or areas of growth. They talk about all of these characteristics are your strengths, and some are strengths that you just need to practice more. And that was really interesting to me. When I took the survey, forgiveness was one of my less practiced strengths, and it was something that I always recognized in myself as an area of growth or an area of weakness, and I never made it a priority to work on it. And since I've been doing more with the VIA Institute and their resources and kind of using that language about, you know, for me, forgiveness isn't a weakness, it's a strength that I already have, it's just something that I've got to do more and build on and grow on, it makes it seem a lot more doable, and it makes it more of a priority. And it's just that tiny shift in language and thinking where I'm already starting with a foundation, it's a strength I have, it's just not practiced as much as maybe like creativity or love of learning or some of my other strengths. It makes it easier for me to think about developing it and to intentionally work on it. And then the last thing for you to think about is finding meaning in your work. A lot of the research says that the best way to increase your productivity and your job satisfaction is to do meaningful work. And your daily tasks, unfortunately, aren't always the most meaningful things in the world. And a lot of times I feel like leaders get bogged down in the monotony of those daily tasks and your inbox full of emails. But if you really think about why you do what you do, why are you in CTE, what's the benefit of it, what are you giving back to the community, and when you're having one of those days where you feel overwhelmed, try to link it back to that meaning. Like getting through my emails helps me have more time to be with my students, be with my staff, to lead my organization. It helps you put it in perspective. Another strategy that a lot of the researchers recommend is creating a couple sentence personal statement or a personal mission statement just to capture, you know, that meaning behind your work. I know a lot of our CTE teachers, when we interview them, say that the reason they're interested in becoming an educator after so many years in industry is because somebody took them under their wing and really trained them and groomed them, and now they want to give back to that industry by doing that with students, and that's kind of their personal mission statement. So when they're having a rough time in the classroom or, you know, with classroom management or just a rough day, I kind of remind them of that and just bring it back to the meaning behind why we do what we do. So a lot of the things that I just mentioned that positive leaders can do for themselves to kind of bring perspective into a positive mind frame and lead from a positive place. Obviously, you can do all of those things with your staff or your leadership teams and your organizations and encourage them to do those things. But then there's some very specific actions that positive leaders do that can help increase the results within their organization and within their teams. One of them is expressing gratitude, specifically giving verbal praise. There's a lot of research on the power of that connection when you're actually talking to somebody and making eye contact and you're sharing something positive that they did or showing that you appreciate them. Leanne was a perfect example of this when she was saying through her presentation how much she appreciates the work of the state member associations and the leadership teams there. So like just those opportunities for giving verbal praise. If there's not enough time to do that, then the suggestion is to schedule once a week a time on your calendar to do positive emails. I try to do this on a day when I've got a lot of office work and I know it's going to kind of be monotonous and grueling and I'm going to need a little pick-me-up, and I'll schedule a few minutes to send positive emails, and then it's a little bright spot in my day. And part of the reason why this is so powerful is when you're giving verbal praise or sending a positive email, you're kind of reliving that positive experience while you're sharing it with the person that you're appreciating. So it's a little pick-me-up for both of you. A lot of the research says that people feel the most successful and the most meaning when they're able to use their strengths at work. So that shouldn't come as a surprise to many people. But what I did find interesting was how many different strengths there are. And this is where like the VIA Institute that I previously mentioned came in. So they have a survey that will take the 24, what they consider the 24 character strengths that everybody has and rank them, like I said, from greatest to least used. But then they also give you all of these resources that go into detail about each strength, ways that you can practice them more, examples of how they're used, why it's important to look at these strengths and to use these strengths, and how they can benefit you. And we've done a lot with this in terms of professional development as a leadership team in my organization and looking at who has strengths in what areas, how do we align our tasks to our strengths, how do we highlight the strengths within our teachers or the people on our leadership teams to give them more of a leadership role and to help them grow. That links directly into the helping other people find meaning in their work. Like I mentioned before, a lot of times I remind my teachers why they told me they got into this field, into teaching when they interviewed, but also just helping staff remember the influence that they make. We're doing a lot more with CTE alumni in our organization to show teachers, you know, even those students who didn't necessarily come because they wanted a career in the field, but they wanted a hobby or they were interested, like what are the success stories that they've had? How did the time that they spend with us make a difference in what they're doing now? We often tell our teachers that learning what you don't want to do is just as important as learning what you want to do in terms of a career, and it's better to find out in high school that CNA or auto tech or cosmetology isn't for you. So sharing anecdotes and examples of the difference that the organization has made to the people that it serves or to the students, and helping teachers kind of just remember those and your staff remember the meaning behind their work and connecting their strengths to the meaning behind their work. And the last thing is high quality connections, which really comes down to the way that you interact with people on a daily basis. A big piece of it is that active listening and really being intentional in meetings and making that eye contact. And again, all of those things that we know are good practice, but kind of go by the wayside when we're busy and we're trying to multitask. Kim Cameron kind of explains high quality connections as those personal interactions that kind of make you feel uplifted, that kind of reinvigorate you, make you remember why you do what you do. And the more we can have between us and our staff and our leadership team, the stronger our relationships are going to be and the better they're going to feel about the work that they're doing for us when we're asking them to do something. But then also encouraging those connections within and among teammates or staff. A lot of research says that one of the greatest indicators of a successful, happy life is your social support network. So who do you have in your life, in your personal life at home? Who do you have in your work life that you can talk to, that you can interact with, whose interactions make you feel good about what you're doing, make you feel supportive if you're having a bad day? So as leaders, creating opportunities for those connections to happen and making sure that we're providing opportunities whenever we speak to our teams, to our students, to our staff, for those high-quality interactions. People shouldn't walk away feeling like they've been drained after having a conversation. And that's not to say we don't give negative feedback or constructive criticism, but we do it in a way that is productive and positive for the person, and that they can grow from it and not feel belittled by it. This is a quote from How to Be a Positive Leader by Jane and Gretchen, and I've highlighted several of the words that I really think speak to the philosophy behind positive leadership. So it's really about creating meaning, relationships, a shared vision, taking initiative as a leader, but helping your staff take initiative, coming from a sense of grounded optimism. I think that's really powerful. Nothing about positive psychology or positive leadership means that we have to ignore the negative or that we don't get discouraged or upset, but that we realize that everything can get better and we have the power to make it better, and we can learn from all of these experiences. So that's where it comes from, like that place of grounded optimism. And then at the end of this quote, that a positive leadership approach demonstrates how small actions can carry that impactful meaning. So you don't have to spend a lot of time trying to instill some of these actions and develop some of these habits and skills, but these little things can go a long way. And really, the more you do these little things, the more they become routine and part of your culture and part of what you do every day, and they'll make a bigger difference in how you feel about work and your approach to the work that you have to do, and then your interactions and relationships with your staff or your leadership teams. So like I said, this has been like my PD focus for the past year, so I've done lots of research and reading on this topic. I've been experimenting with different strategies and things that I do for myself to try to come from a more positive place, things that I've been doing with my admin and leadership teams at work, and just little tweaks to my schedule and to the way we do things in our organization. And this is kind of a summary of some of the research that I've done, but books that I thought on positive leadership that I thought were really useful. Books on happiness. Sean Aker is, he's a very humorous writer. He's got lots of TED Talks and articles and videos out there, so he's great to listen to. And Rick Hansen has lots of practical tips and tricks on positive psychology and just ideas on how to kind of change your thought process and, set yourself up to be a more happy, successful person. Pretty much everybody who's written a book also has a website, so those are listed on the screen. Happify.com has lots of fun little tricks and tips for trying to lead a happy, more successful life. But those are all great sites. So I know that was kind of a very quick overview, but if anybody is interested in more resources, have questions, or want to know more of like the actual things that we're doing in our organization to try to practice this and the impact that it's happening with it, I'd be happy to talk about it more. My email address is on the screen. And I guess the only thing that I'll say before I close is that since I've been doing this, I feel a lot more positive and a lot better about the work that I've been doing, and I feel like when I'm having a bad day, I can reframe my thinking a lot easier and a lot quicker, and I'm hoping that it's having an effect on my staff and the people that I work with, and that my wish for you is that you find something in this quick presentation that you can use and it can help you grow as a more positive leader. So thank you very much for allowing me to share.
Thank you so much, Paula. We greatly appreciate you taking the time and sharing your expertise that you've learned from all your professional development this past year with us. Thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions for Paula? All right. And before we close, does anybody have any other questions just in general that you would like to ask ACTE, or any ways that ACTE can assist you? Again, ACTE is always here, always available. Should you have any needs or any questions, anything we can assist you with, we are more than happy to do so. I know we're a little bit over, so we're going to go ahead and end our call today. Again, we look forward to talking to you next month in September, and hope you can join us then. Thank you so much and have a great day. Bye.